Welcome to Especially for Nutritionists and Herbalists case study number 3. Thank you for coming. Even though we are only going to be together for about 30 minutes, I promise to make this time well invested. We have a wide variety of holistic practitioners with us, including nutritionists, herbalists, and a few others. Welcome. I'm really glad you're with us tonight. One thing I've learned over my years in the holistic wellness industry is that excellent healers keep learning. They know they don't know it all. So congratulations for being in that small minority who continue to learn, who strive to be your best, and who strive to give the best to your clients. I am really excited to have you with me. Even with all your learning and all your best intentions, you are likely facing some challenges. Sadly, you are probably even creating some of the challenges in your practice. Let's take a peek at what the most common challenges are. Lengthy intake forms. You know your clients hate them. And after you've scanned the form once, you likely don't even read it thoroughly again after that. Lengthy forms are pretty much a complete waste of time for your client and for you. Challenge number 2, not knowing exactly where to start in your recommendations, problems setting priorities. You could make a lot of different recommendations, right? And they would all be great. Challenge is that you may want to make too many recommendations, so you need help learning how to set priorities and set therapeutic sequences for each client. Challenge number 3, doing research and program development outside of client time for your clients and you're not getting paid for it. Many holistic therapists feel they need to prove themselves against the medical establishment. Because of that, you're probably spending extra time, unpaid time, doing research and program development for your clients, and in the process, you overwhelm your clients with so much information they don't come back after the second consultation. They either don't need to come back because you've taught them everything they need to know for the rest of their life, or they feel so overwhelmed they couldn't possibly do all of it. And since they are losers because they can't follow your instructions, why should they bother coming back? How do I know that these are the biggest challenges we face as herbalists, nutritionists, and holistic practitioners? Well, I've been there myself. I used to do appointments that would run 3 hours long. Now tell me if that was overkill. And I've interviewed a lot of holistic practitioners, especially nutritionists and herbalists, and they tell me the exact same thing. They can get clients in for 1 or 2 appointments and then the clients don't come back. They've even told me up front that the reason the clients don't come back is they give them so much information, the clients go home and they've got a lifetime of homework ahead of them. Clients are being overwhelmed. It's not helpful. So who am I and what qualifies me to share this amazing information with you? I've been a holistic health coach since 1981. I'm a master herbalist, a holistic nutritionist, nutritional consultant practitioner, depending on which professional organization we're talking about. I'm a certified iridologist and a certified comprehensive iridology instructor, a teacher of wellness professionals since 1985. I love teaching what I know to professionals. I'm a wife of 1, a mom of 7, and a grandma of 7, and this is me. My name is Judith Cobb. I've made every mistake a person can make in the holistic wellness practice, and I've done it while having and raising our children. I've invested so much time and money, a lot of it in making mistakes. I mean, learning how not to build a business, and less of it wisely by investing in classes and workshops with mentors who could lead me through the landmines of building a holistic wellness business. My goal is to save you time, money, frustration, and discouragement by helping you avoid all the pitfalls I fell into and making the same mistakes I made. I want to introduce you to a new way of doing things, a way that will eliminate all of the challenges we mentioned earlier, right? So no more lengthy intake forms, no more not knowing where to start and not knowing how to set priorities. No more doing 2 or 3 or 4 hours of research and creating programs outside of your client time. And no more overwhelming your clients with so much information they feel like they can't come back or they just don't need to come back. Does that sound too good to be true? Yeah? I know if someone had given me this idea 25 years ago when my business was still young, or 30 years ago, I would have glommed onto it so tenaciously. But back then, holistic practitioners were following the medical model. They were trying to do things the way doctors do them, only with making natural and holistic recommendations instead. They had a very allopathic approach, and as a result, it led to lengthy forms and too much information and all kinds of bad news for us. So let me demonstrate how easy this is. And we're going to do a test case. I'm going to demonstrate it on a case for you today, because you can literally gather the base information you need from your client. Let that information teach you what to ask next. Let that information teach you what recommendations to start with. Let it teach you how to proceed for the next several sessions, how to build a priority therapy program. And you can literally make those notes right in the client file of session 2, session 3, session 4, session 5. And let it help you build rapport more quickly and deeply without using a lengthy intake form. Now, in my interviews, I have found some practitioners that have intake forms that are 2 or 3 pages long, which isn't so bad. It's still not great, but I came across a few that have intake forms that are 20 pages long. That's like filling out the long income tax form. It's painful and it's not necessary. So to start at the very beginning, we need to know how to start a consultation, and we do that the same no matter what format we're using. We need their name, their gender, their age, their height, their weight, and their birth date. That is the basic information that we need. That alone gives us a little bit of information, right? To start with, if you're working with a woman who's 50 and she's 5'5" and weighs 120 pounds, you know that her concerns are probably going to be more along the lines of menopause and hormones, just right off the top. If you're working with a woman who is 25, weighs 190 pounds and is 5 feet 6 inches tall, you're probably looking at weight issues, possibly glandular imbalances, and maybe infertility. So just even from knowing that bit of basic information, you can start creating ideas of what's going on. But the next thing that you need to ask them is, what problems do they want your help with? What was it that they sought you out to help them fix? That will give you a lot more clues as to where you're headed with this. So far, we've taken no more than about 3 minutes in our 1-hour consultation. We also need to ask them what medical diagnoses they've received and what prescriptions they are currently using. And you can add to that what other holistic therapies and holistic practitioners are they accessing. You want to be sure that you know everything they're doing so that you can understand a few things: their education level, where they're coming from, and where they want to go. Okay, and you need to be a little bit careful when you're including the information about holistic practitioners and therapies that other practitioners are doing, as well as their doctors and any medications and therapies that are happening there, so that you can integrate and understand where your place is in this puzzle. Once you've got this information, you will need some equipment. Equipment that will cost you about $25. Equipment that you can buy at Target, Walmart, or a stamp collecting shop. Seriously, the only high-tech thing you're going to need to know to do what I'm going to teach you today is how to change the battery in the flashlight. This is the type of equipment you need. You need some kind of a light, a magnifying glass rather, with a light built in. So this is one from a stamp collector shop. You could use a magnifying glass and a pen light. Again, super easy to find in any general kind of store. Or you can spend a little more and get a little bit of a high-tech magnifier. Now you want, for now, just any magnifier will do. It's a good place to start. Now, that's all you need to start with. It really is. And I still use this kind of equipment in my practice to this day. And yes, there are fancy, expensive, high-tech cameras. And yes, I have one, and I also use it for every client. But that's not where I started, and that is not where I start each of my consultations. It's not where any of us started, and it's not where you should start either. We all started with a lighted magnifying glass or a magnifying glass and a pen light, and we built from there. You can do an awful lot of good with $25 worth of equipment. Now, I like to use this as my starting point, and then I do like to use my camera because clients like to see what their eyes look like. But you don't start there. Don't go thinking you need to spend $1,500 or $2,000 on a camera. You don't. Here's what you can do with these amazing, portable, and affordable tools. You can look into someone's eyes and read them like a book. Well, almost. Now, the case we're working on today is one of the hardest cases you'll ever see, and I'll explain why in a minute. We're going to start looking at iridology. Iridology is a beautiful assessment tool. It is not a diagnostic tool. 35 years ago, it was being treated as a diagnostic tool. It is not that. It is an assessment tool. When you do iridology correctly, you will never get into trouble with diagnosing because you will never name diseases. You will never be prescribing, which means you'll never be naming a cure. But you will have so many critical insights into how a person is put together and where the genetic strengths and weaknesses are and where their current hotspots are that you will be able to lead people to better health. The irides, and that's I-R-I-D-E-S, which is the correct plural of iris when we're talking about the eyes, are genetic indicators. So the actual iris itself is a genetic indicator. That means that they don't change easily. It can change. We know enough about genetics now that we know we can turn genes on and off, but most people aren't willing to do that much homework. What we're really looking for is changes in how the body is functioning. The irises tell us where to look for issues, and we can formulate programs, and then we watch for the person's symptoms to change. You see, the eyes give us gifts of information, but they don't give us disease names. The info they give leads us to the next question, and to the next question, and to the next question. And of course, each question has a valuable answer. So I use iridology to understand the genetic strengths and weaknesses of the person and to create a long-term approach in what I recommend for foods, herbs, and supplements. We use the sclera, or the whites of the eye, with the different capillary patterns and things like this and texture to the capillaries to tell us what's going on in the body right now. Now, dark brown eyes like these which are known as hematogenic eyes, are some of the most difficult to read. They have so much pigment in them that it often hides the markings. However, in my advanced classes, I do teach how to use Photoshop to actually pump up the light and make some of the features stand out more clearly. So let's do this case study and see where it takes us. Here's the context for this set of eyes. Female, age 26, weighs 114 pounds. Her main concern is that she has had abnormal pap smears. Her doctor has given her no prescriptions, and the diagnosis is that the pap smears were precancerous. So knowing that about this woman, we wanted to ask a few more questions. So I also asked her if she had ever used birth control pills, and yes, she had. She used them from age 15 to 24. Additional details include she has 1 bowel movement per day, more if she's stressed or sleeps poorly, and sorry, I advanced that a little too soon. We'll get to this slide in just a moment. She works out at varying intensities a few times per week. There are no unusual markings in the cervix area of the iris. Certain types of markings can suggest a higher risk of cancer. When no such markings are present, consider that there may be emotional roots and/or dietary imbalances and/or excess toxicity as the root cause of the abnormal cells. Once I've gathered the basic information, I pick up my pen light and my magnifying glass and I ask permission to look at her left eye first. Now you'll notice that I put an L on the left eye. So this is as if you were looking right at her face. We always start with the left eye. It's just what we do. It's protocol. And once we've seen what we need to in the left eye, then we ask for permission to look at the right eye. So it's up close and personal. You are within a foot of your client. I make notes of what jumps out at me. Whatever jumps out first or the most strongly is likely where I'm going to start with asking my questions of her. So the first thing that jumps out at me is the amount of rings that I see in her right iris. So when we look here, we see these rings. The second thing that jumps out at me is the heavy blood vessels in the left eye. The third thing is the amount of petal-shaped markings in the lower left eye. And the fourth thing is the size of the pupils. See how fast that was? There's more detail that we can see, and we'll look at some of it. We don't have time to do all of it now, but I already know more about her than a 5-page questionnaire could ever tell me. Now, by asking the right questions, I can get the exact information I need to construct a 4 to 6 more appointments for this client. This allows me to give her just the right amount of homework so she can be successful and will want to come back to learn more and make more progress. We aren't going to talk about everything. There just isn't enough time. Just know that each of these indicators are significant, and each of these could easily be the topic of one consultation, especially if you're including supplements, lifestyle, emotional work if you do any emotional things, flower essences, Bach flowers, aromatherapy, any of that. You could easily turn each one of these into its own session. So the first place we want to start is looking at her base constitution. Brown eyes, that means her base constitution is that he is hematogenic. So when we see the basic brown here, we're going to ask questions about liver symptoms. We're going to ask questions about anger issues. And we're going to ask questions about if there's any history of problems with her blood. Now, she might say liver symptoms, like what would that be? And you could then go on to describe, is she ever jaundiced? Are there Do fatty foods bother her? That would tie liver and gallbladder in. Does she feel generally fatigued? Things like that. Liver also regulates the amount of iron in the blood, so you could ask if she's ever been anemic. Ask about anger issues because liver regulates how we deal with anger. Ask about blood problems. Again, does she tend to be anemic? Are there any history of blood infections? Anything like that. And the recommendations that we're going to lean on, and I'm not going to do herbs or anything beyond foods in the context of what we're doing here right now, but we would encourage her to do lots of leafy greens in her diet and give her a visual of how big that serving would be, and that she needs to do it every day, and ways she can make that more interesting so that when she goes home, she's not thinking, you mean I've got to eat this big plate of lettuce? Because she might not like lettuce, but she might like kale or spinach, or she might like interesting other greens, radicchio and endive and escarole and all those kinds of things. And so we want to be teaching her about the foods that would support the liver. Again, we don't have time to get into the emotional side of iridology today, but that would be for the advanced class. Then my next thing would be to look at these rings in her eyes because they tell us much. These rings put her into a category called anxiety tetanic, and the rings themselves are called contraction furrows. So when we see contraction furrows, we are going to ask about her resiliency under pressure. When things are really cooking hot, how does she handle it? Is she cool and calm and collected? Can she tunnel vision and just plow through and deal with things? Or does she crumble to bits? Does she explode? We want to ask about her sleep patterns because when we look at contraction furrows, we're looking at a nervous system indicator here. So does she fall asleep easily, sleep through the night, wake up in the morning feeling refreshed? Or is she falling asleep, waking up every 2 to 4 hours? Does she have problems getting to sleep? If she wakes up, does she have problems getting back to sleep? We want to know all about her sleep patterns. Then we want to ask about her mood in general. Does she feel stressed when none exists? Or does she generally feel happy? Or just so-so? Or is she actually does she feel blue or sad a lot of the time? So when we understand what each of these questions can mean and how it feeds into more information about the body, then we're going to look at some suggestions. We're going to suggest that she add some hemp hearts. Good protein, good B vitamins, good omega-3. Nice way to just boost the nutrient level up a notch. We are going to suggest that she gets 5 to 6 small servings of protein from a variety of sources each day. When we see contraction furrows in a person's eye, it can often mean that that they're responding badly to blood sugar imbalances and things like that, and stabilizing blood sugars can give her more resilience throughout the day. We really want her to get a walk in the sunshine at noon. She needs the bright sun. She needs the sunshine to feed her energy. I really think we're half plant, and that when we get out there in the sun, that most of us just open up like a sunflower and we turn to the sun and we just go, yeah, charge me. That's what we need her to do. And in addition to the walk, she needs to make sure that she's getting 30 minutes of physical activity every day. Now, if she's going for a brisk walk for 30 minutes at lunchtime in the sunshine, good enough. If she can't get out for a walk at lunchtime, maybe she only is able to squeeze in a 5-minute lunch break, so she goes and she sits on a bench outside the office for the 10 minutes, then she needs to be getting 30 minutes of physical activity at some point in the day. And we would talk about what kinds of physical activity she likes, what kinds of physical activity are practical for her lifestyle. What could she start getting in, and could she now make a commitment to get 30 minutes 3 times a week? It's a starting point, and we're going to break the homework down into very achievable steps so that when she comes back and says, I did it for the past month, I have worked out 30 minutes a day, 3 times a week, I did it every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we can go high five, good on ya, way to go, what have you noticed for that? And when she takes that moment to do that reflection of how has this helped her, she'll start to go, oh yeah, I have more energy. Then we can build on that and start asking for 4 or 5 days a week, building up to 7. And then we look at this next one, which is polyglandular, which means that we have lots of these petal shapes in her eyes. So now we really want to know about her energy levels. Is her energy consistent throughout the day, or is it uneven? Does she have highs and lows? Ask her about her sleep patterns again, so important with this set of markings, and ask about carbohydrate and sugar cravings. It's not uncommon to see a roller coaster ride with the blood sugars with this type of an eye. So again, we want to go back to that concept of encouraging her to eat 5 to 6 small servings of protein every day. So she's eating a little bit of protein every 2 to 3 hours to keep the blood sugars stable. We want to encourage her to be creative. Now that's getting into the emotional work, and we're not going to deal a lot with that in this case study, but she needs a creative outlet. Her eyes are shrieking, I'm creative! And yet, in her life, she hasn't mentioned anything creative yet. We want to encourage an early bedtime with a small protein and complex carb before she goes to bed. So important that she gets that before bed to help her with her serotonin, melatonin production to help her sleep. So this is all leading us into, as you've heard me say lots of times, this is the basic stuff, and there's more that I can teach you, and we can do the emotions, and we can do the iridology even on a much deeper level. And so in the course that I teach called The Confident Healer, I'll teach you how to integrate the iridology, the constitutional iridology, with herbology and with nutrition. Now, if you have herbal background but not nutrition, or nutrition but not herbs, that's okay, because we're going to cover that for you. I'll teach you about the blood vessels in the sclera again and what they all mean, because again, these are the dynamic in the now, where what you see in the iris is the map, it's the blueprint, it's how the body is put together and how it functions. We just don't have time to touch on everything right now, but just know that we see the genetic build plus how it's manifesting right now in the eyes. Remember that I mentioned these in the lower part of the eye? That again makes this eye a polyglandular eye, so many glands is what that means. Each lacuna is not necessarily important. Lacuna become important if there are matching lacuna when you compare the left iris to the right iris. So we see a lacuna here and here, that makes those two important. Or we can have another indicator pointing to the same problem. So when we know where this lacuna is sitting and what it means, and this one too, we know how to deal with it. If we know where this one is sitting and what organ it correlates to, but we don't necessarily have another one over here, right here, then we're going to look for another type of marking that is pointing to the same problem. And there are lots of markings in the eye. Okay, so again, what we do want to ask her what she does that's creative. That is one of the questions that we should be asking her. Then we want to look at the pupil size. The pupil size tells us a lot. The pupils actually give us dynamic current information. We expect the pupil on the right to be a little bit smaller than the pupil on the left, because especially when we're taking photographs, because we've got this little flash that goes off that nobody likes, and after we've done a couple of photos on the left side, and the pupils in both eyes react in tandem when things are balanced properly, it means that by the time we get to the right eye, the eyes together have said, We're smart. We're on to you. You're going to flash that nasty flash at us again. We're going to make the pupil just a little bit smaller so we don't get so much of that light right on that retina. And so we expect to see a little bit of variation in size from the left eye to the right eye. That's perfectly normal. When the pupils come down as small as the flash, however, as they have in this right eye, that's an indication that we need to be asking about current stress levels. So we're going to ask, what is your current stress like? How is it at work? How is it at home? Anything going on that is either big or that's been little and unrelenting? How long has it been there? And what can she do? What can she do to resolve the stress? So again, just simple food, lifestyle things, increase her protein, get those 5 or 6 little servings a day can help her body handle stress way more effectively. We can work on helping to improve and increase her sleep and get her to engage in rejuvenating activities. So we may need to spend a few minutes talking with her about what does that mean. So see how quick that was? Now, there is more to see in this iris, but really, you've just outlined 4 full appointments worth of content for your client, all for looking in her eyes, really, when you understand the markings, for probably less than 2 minutes. And what's more, you have connected with your client. You haven't asked her all kinds of nonsensical questions that are just standard protocol on a 20-page form. You have asked her only questions that are pertinent to her health and well-being. When you understand the iris and the sclera, do you see how you can integrate your nutrition knowledge? Do you see how you can integrate any herbal knowledge you have? Yeah, do you see how you can integrate lifestyle knowledge that you've got? And do you see that you can more easily prioritize which pieces of education and homework to share with your clients and help them to achieve greater success? Do you see how easy it is to break it all down into bite-sized, doable pieces for your clients? Integrating iridology, nutrition, herbology, and lifestyle into the assessment and recommendation process will help you to eliminate lengthy intake forms. It's going to save you money on printing, save you time on reading. It's a good thing. It's going to help you to know exactly which problems to address first and what recommendations to make first. It's going to significantly reduce doing research and program design outside of client time. Now, admittedly, sometimes you get a client who's got a really unique story, and you may want to do research to give them your best. But that is not every client. That is maybe 10% of your clients, maybe 10%. And as you develop your niche, you will find that you are doing less and less research and program design outside of client time. Knowing how to integrate all of this will keep you from overwhelming your clients with too much information while encouraging them to become long-term repeat clients. So I want to have you be on the lookout. Some of you have been hounding me for this information, and I'm so excited that you are. You're certainly not bothering me. It's very exciting to have you be so excited about what's coming up. In September, I will be starting to teach the constitutional iridology classes again. I haven't taught in a few years, but I will be doing them. And until then, I will be doing more of these little 30-minute iridology intro workshops, and I hope you'll continue to join me for those. If you aren't already on my mailing list, please go to iridology.education, and you'll find that there will be a little pop-up box there for you to download the most amazing iridology chart. It's the one that we're going to use in my classes. And so go there, give me your name and address, email address, and that will add you to the database so that you can be kept current as to what's happening with, excuse me, with the iridology courses. Okay, so the next one is actually going to be on Tuesday, August the 9th at 6 p.m. And again, you can register at iridology.education. Click on the courses link, and it should connect you to the registration page. But I have more exciting news. This is the very first tantalizing tidbit of information about the course Confident Healer, Integrated Constitutional Iridology for Nutritionists and Herbalists. This course will teach the beginning to advanced iridology and sclerology at a level that will prepare you to take the International Iridology Practitioner Association certification exam if you should so choose. It will teach you about basic nutrition as it relates to iridology. It will teach you basic herbology as it relates to iridology. To be clear, I am not going to be teaching nutrition and herbology overall in this course. I'm going to be tying them in so that when you see a particular marking, you will know a specific recommendation to make for it. If you already have nutrition and or herbology, you will find the course will be a bit easier, but I will not leave you behind otherwise. So don't go thinking, oh, I have no nutrition, I have no herbology, I can't take this course. That's just a bunch of bohunk. Okay, so take this course. If you want to learn iridology and you want to learn to love iridology and use it effectively, this course is for you. The start date has been set for Confident Healer, Integrated Constitutional Iridology for Nutritionists and Herbalists. We will be starting on Thursday, September 15th. Registration will open on August 23rd during one of our 30-minute workshops. So you want to register for that one for sure. And registration will only be open for a short time. I'm not necessarily looking to put 50 people into this class. I would rather have 5 to 10 students who are excited, who are eager learners, who really want this, than 50 mediocre, yeah, well, it's iridology kind of people. I want people who really want this. So if that is you, then make sure you are with us on August the 23rd when the cart opens. Now, I will tell you right now that this course is going to be approximately 20 weeks long. I'm still actually plotting out the curriculum to divide it out so that, again, so I don't overwhelm you in the classes, but that I give you really solid information with lots of practice time in class, because that's how I teach. And because it will be a 20-session class, approximately 20 sessions, and will span many months, there will be a payment plan available. So, if you've got a little savings account going to save up for courses and workshops and upgrading, this is a good place to begin to plan to spend the money, to invest the money, and you want to just keep adding to that so that you've always got money to upgrade your coursework. So that is our program for today. Mark September 15th for the start of the course. Be with me again on August 9th and again on the 23rd for more practice and for more information about the course, and especially on the 23rd for when we'll begin accepting registrations. I look forward to seeing you in our next, especially for nutritionists and herbalists, case study on August the 9th. Have a fabulous week. Thanks so much. Bye.